It's funny how people perceive things they don't know much about. For example, in an article in the famous British paper The Guardian, they're calling MGTOW a toxic male separatist movement. It describes the MGTOW movement as a misogynist movement dedicated to hating women as opposed to loving them. This is what it says in one paragraph, and I quote verbatim. "The views of MGTOW are indeed unorthodox, even within the sprawling web of groups, lifestyles, and cults known as the manosphere, where women haters mobilize against a supposed gynocratic conspiracy." Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel by pressing the bell icon. The main weapon modern women have and employ against men is manipulation. They have been accustomed to it since they were teenagers and will keep using it till they pass away. They'll try to manipulate your feelings against you in order to get what they want. They'll try to persuade you to do things like give them gifts, agree to let them see other people, move closer to where they work, and accept whatever it is they want you to believe. It goes on forever. Also, it commonly works on frail males. We all know that they are primarily after one item, and as a result, they will put up with mistreatment simply for the benefit of that one thing, making them vulnerable to manipulation. It is therefore recommended for guys to stay away from such women who they are aware will take advantage of them and manipulate them. Honestly, it's not a big thing to date a modern woman. Even if the woman attempts to seduce you by fulfilling your wildest dreams, the flex is higher if you know what they want and remain calm. You need to be calm and take a stand by yourself. Guys who pride themselves on being good have never been able to assert themselves. They have only ever wanted one thing, have never used their true brain, and are too afraid to admit they have desires. They act very sensibly now, yet they are still the ones most susceptible to abuse by women. Women, in my opinion, desire our affection while also wanting us to reject them. As if we had a switch that we could use to turn love on and off. It is also quite submissive for a guy to kneel down and give a woman a huge and expensive diamond ring. The white knight test must be passed in today's society in order to be married. However, if you do drop down on one knee and give your fiancé a ring, you have already failed the test. Nevertheless, women are socially instructed to accept that men make sacrifices for them, and that they should be subservient, despite the fact that a woman's inherent or innate character typically dictates that she should be the one who is submissive. Because you're tapping into your feminine nature and not paying attention to the background noise of what's socially acceptable and what isn't, I can understand why you're receiving a lot of attention despite the restrictions being placed against you. Additionally, you are breaking the rules of established intimate relations. In your situation, the woman who lacks authority benefits entirely when a male assumes leadership and makes decisions for her. On the other side, women also benefit when a man chooses to focus on being a protector and a provider rather than becoming aggressive and decisive. In the past, males were the guardians, providers, and aggressive leaders. However, most males today are urged to treat women with submission and on an equal footing when it comes to the workplace and careers. The actual question, I suppose, is what advantage women have in relationships with men who are emotionally superior to them. My response is that a woman does not need to exercise agency when a guy is in charge and accountable. The fact that the male makes the decisions makes her lack of agency clear. When males make decisions for them, especially when those decisions are wise ones, women tend to gain more self-assurance. The advantage of having a strong, dominating guy is that the kids will have more structure and discipline in their lives, which frequently translates to the kids being more productive in the long run. Those kids who will increase riches or who would appreciate retirement or insurance policy for their mothers later on in life. Most women, in my opinion, aren't mindful of the fact that the caliber of their progeny will benefit them in an old life. We spoke extensively about the government, but we didn't speak much about how it provides women with retirement benefits when they get older. The government assumes the role of the father for the kids, and in later life, it steps in to give the financial security that adult children frequently offer. Because the government would eventually assist them, Many women in the past had no reason to treat their husbands and child's fathers with respect, but more crucially, because they are aware that the government would provide for them far into old life, mothers lack any real motivation to raise their children correctly. Therefore, since they receive their own money from the government, women are not in need to submit to their husbands or children. All of this was revealed following the suffrage of women. Women had little option but to bow to their husbands and children as long as they were later in life reliant upon them. However, once industrial automation and the social safety net were developed, women were no longer required to remain subordinate to males, despite their natural predisposition still telling them to be reliant and submissive. I believe that women's unhappiness has increased over the past 3 to 4 decades because they are socially required to make important life decisions alone, without the assistance of males. Additionally, you described how awful your home was, how controlling your mother and your 2 sisters were, and how oddly it was the military school that raised you well. I'm sorry you were treated like that, but I'm delighted you met a woman who was receptive to you having an open marriage. As civilization progressed, things went rather well, but as soon as the roles were reversed and males became subservient and women became dominating, things quickly began to deteriorate. You also claim that you are not controlled or given orders, but what I discovered to be intriguing is that women do attempt to control and give orders to men, even if just subtly. Women are constantly seeking an advantage over us males. That has, at least, been my own experience. Women always want to dominate relationships, take on a domineering role, and identify any areas of vulnerability in males. I'd equate being in a relationship with a woman to participating in a political discussion. While you, the man, have to work at being a politician, your female opponent is always a career politician by nature. Instead, males don't possess the same mental abilities that women have when it comes to twisting our words. But once you master female manipulation techniques, they are all essentially the same, since women find it difficult to think of novel methods to deceive men. I believe that many women are opposed to feminism, but they are unable to express this opposition since doing so would contradict the politically acceptable stereotype of women. While we may have popular websites and even television channels constantly talk about men going their own way as a horrible movement that shouldn't even exist, they fail to understand that men have been more alienated by society, culture, the justice system, and the government than ever before. They fail to understand that men do not have any platforms where they can come and share their grievances like women can. Men tend to do everything they can for women in order to be with them. They fight wars, build empires, make revolutionary inventions, and sacrifice their own lives. They do all of this unconditionally. On the other hand, a woman will only be there for you because of a number of reasons. It's never really authentic. Because they are naturally selfish, women have been conditioned by society to think they are entitled to all of a man's resources. Women try to shame, guilt, and look down on males and say things like, "You're not man enough for me." Naturally, when men see this, they decide they don't want to participate in this unfair social game. But a man is always expected to grin while tolerating her spoiled, entitled, and selfish behavior. The contemporary guy is aware of this, and modern women find it offensive, which is why gender roles in Western society are so widely misunderstood. You must grasp the genuine nature of women in order to protect yourself from hardship, abuse, and suffering. Women are becoming more selective in whom they choose to date. Therefore, men need to be aware of what women actually seek in men and how they might fool men. Without men, society cannot and will never be functional. Women will undoubtedly take some time to comprehend it. Still, perhaps in the next decade, I believe both genders will properly appreciate their roles in society and their obligations to one another. Thanks for watching Man Reacts.